rebel, politics, news, conspiracies. Wake up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. It's the type of stuff I'm into, all right? Make sure you tune in. Let's go.
Let's go, let's go. My apologies. We have some technical difficulties in the building. If you follow me on Snapchat, you know what's going on. Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. Tayla, what's your Snapchat? Tayla Andre, Tayla As far as weather is concerned, we're going to try this again because it's warmer weather. Hopefully, they're not going to make me out to be a liar. Partly cloudy today, high of 61, low of 43. Tuesday, high of 57, low of 40. AM showers. Wednesday, high of 59, low of 38. Sunny throughout the day. Thursday, high of 71, partly cloudy. Friday, high of 71. Few showers. And Saturday, high of 59. Low of 42, partly cloudy throughout the day. As far as news is concerned, there are so many things that I want to share with you, and we might not get through all of them because we have a bomb guest for Motivational Monday today. But really quickly, I want to give a huge shout out to David Banner and his people. We got the call on Friday. David Banner is coming to Boston. Well, didn't you tell us that last week? No, I was speaking it into existence. Before it wasn't a real thing. Now it's a real thing. David Banner is coming to Boston. We are going to figure out what day works best for him and us. And as more details roll out, I definitely will keep you in the loop because we need you to help raise money to bring David Banner to Boston. I'm not going to pretend like I'm caked because I am not. I'm not paid. I don't have the money. He is expensive. Bringing him and his entourage here is expensive. In order for David Banner to come here, you, we, us, together, we're ready to be at because I kill it every time. We have work to do. And if you're willing and able to be a part of that work, please, there's an Indiegogo on the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page. And I thank you in advance for your support and your donation. A Japanese city is blanketed in mysterious foam. They have no idea. It is not snow. It is not sleet. It is not rain. After a deadly earthquake, they have some mysterious foam, and they have no idea where it's coming from. The streets of southern Japanese city became blanketed in foam after a devastating earthquake close to the epicenter in Kumatu, leaving residents baffled by the phenomenon, which authorities busy with the disaster's aftermath found time to explain. The froth appeared shortly after disastrous tremors of a 7.3 magnitude quake shook the city of Fukuoka. I did not cuss, that is a city. On Friday, Twitter users posted photos of the snow-like foam of sheets and wondered what was the cause of it. Mind you, this is not foam that washed up from the shore and was on, the Quincy Beach. No, this is actual in the middle of the city, looks like snow, but it is foam. I cannot tell you a lie. It looks crazy. If you've ever been to a foam party, they're actually really fun. If you've ever been to a foam party, this is what it looks like. There's about 3 or 4 inches of foam on the ground. Head over to the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page if you want to see more. More news from Japan. Tokyo is to dump or not dump a little discussed substance in the question whether or not they should dump in the ocean. What do you think that dump is going to be? Dun, dun, dun. Radioactivity. Radioactive material. That's crazy. You guys didn't find another solution? We'll just put it in the ocean. Are you serious? Mind you, this is not even being discussed by world leaders. This is like Japan's like, oh, where are we going to do it? Where are we going to put it? It's like that little kid that makes a mess in the kitchen and think if they just put it in the corner, no one's going to find out. Yeah, that's what's going on. Radioactive material is nearly impossible to remove from the huge quantities of water used to cool melt-down reactors, which was wrecked at the massive tsunami in northeastern Japan in March of 2011. They're still dealing with this. The water is accumulating since 300 tons are needed every day to keep the reactors chilled. Some is leaking into the ocean. Huge tanks lined up around the plant that at the last count was 1,000 of them. Each hold hundreds of tons of water that have been cleaned of radioactive scrotiums, but not of tritium. Long story short, they have no idea what to do with this. They're thinking we may dump it in the ocean. I think it's completely insane. We have to find another way around this. If you guys don't know, we have radioactive plants here in Massachusetts as well. Last time I checked, the one in Plymouth is still open, but they are looking to close that one down. Gambia is to file. This is in Africa. Gambia is to file a resolution on slavery and colonialism at the UN. Gambia's president, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Algi Dr. Yaha. There's like 7 more names here that you get the point. Gambia's president and his deputies and the government in tension at the table of the UN General Assembly resolution on slavery and colonialism to declare these barbaric chapters in human history as crimes against humanity for the nations that perpetuated these crimes to be obligated to reparations and unconditional apologies. The president was speaking to Gambia deputies on the occasion of the state opening of the 2016 legislative year at the National Assembly chambers in Banjul. I am delighted to inform you that my government has secured the endorsement of both the African Union and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, he said, and because of the common experience between Africa and Caribbean countries, he went on, we are quite hopeful of the support of the Caribbean governments. Now, let's take that a step further, because we have Jamaica saying that they want to remove the Queen of England as head of state. Last year, Jamaica decriminalized marijuana, and this year they're trying to take another step forward and making it completely legal. However, what's more important is the proposed move to ditch the Queen of England. In a speech by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen, posted to the government's website, the proposed changes were announced with replacing the Queen high on the list. Jamaica currently operates with the Queen of England as its head of state. The Queen appoints a representative to the country's Governor General, and instead of holding an election, however, Jamaica plans to change its constitution to have a non-executive president as its head of state, making Jamaica a republic, and in the process of getting rid of positions of Governor General. Jamaica Observer writes, a non-executive president like the Governor General would still be a symbolic leader and perform a representative and civic role, but with no powers to make policy. I feel something brewing. I feel something brewing. I'm a visionary, and I see the Caribbean sitting down and having conversations and saying, listen, you remember that gold you guys stole from us? Well, I think you're going to have to give it back. Oh, you remember those artifacts you stole from us? Yeah, we're going to need those back. And this isn't a question. This isn't a suggestion. It's a demand. We want it back. Good. You deserve it. Pause for 5 seconds. Since we're talking about Africa, you guys know that my baby Anari is in Africa right now, and him and I spoke. You would have thought Anari was down the damn street the way he called my phone yesterday. But I am so grateful and I'm so thankful. Anari said, Mommy, if you were here, you would move here. He said, it's no different than the United States. He said, I got off the plane and I was really surprised to see a Domino's and a McDonald's and a KFC. Everything we have at home is here. He said, my hotel room is beautiful. It's a suite. And he said, it's not like suites in America, but we have our own living room. Daddy has his own room. My room has its own room. Like, we have a real suite. He said, I can look outside of my balcony and the city goes on and on and on. He said, the city it never ends. He said that he walked on the beaches in Africa and it was beautiful. He said it was 10 o'clock at night and the water was gorgeous. I cannot tell you as a parent how proud I am. He flew over and landed in Dubai. That was his layover, was a 3-hour layover in Dubai. And he said that he saw the palm trees in the ocean, because they made islands that look like palm trees. And he was like, I took a picture of it for you. I can't send you all of the pictures because it's going to mess up my Wi-Fi, but I took a lot of pictures for you. Anari is going to come when he comes back next week We're going to find some time, some space for him to talk about his experience because he is loving it. He said, more people need to, I asked him, would you suggest to the listeners to go to Africa? He said, I would suggest that they move here. Anari wants to move to Africa. He was really surprised at the amount of white people in South Africa. And he said that he didn't think that what he learned in school about the apartheid was factual enough versus his experience. So what he learned doesn't mirror what he's currently experiencing. So taking Anari's words, I would like for you to do your own little honeypot. I don't care if you have to take a few dollars out of your cigarette budget, a few dollars out of your weed budget, a few dollars out of your wine, liquor budget, a few dollars out of whatever budget you have for your, fun things. Take that, set it aside, and take a trip to Africa. The tickets themselves are damn near $1,300 on a cheap day. But from what Anari's telling me, you go over there with a couple $100, you're living like a king. His father bought ice cream for 6 people and paid $3. But one of the things that he didn't notice was a lot of things that get imported from America are a lot higher, and that's because you're paying the price of shipping. So as a mom, I'm very proud. My son has officially out-traveled me, and I'm glad because it is shaping his experiences. It is shaping who he will become as a man, and I am so happy, so excited, and so proud of him. I know I'm cutting into these news, but I knew I was going to go over. So all of these news stories are going to be on the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page, so please head over and catch them there. I'm really excited, though. I'm a brown mommy. I really am. In other news, the Arizona Department of Corrections has fired 3 people involved in 2 separate inmate suicides for not doing their job after an investigation into the deaths led to demanding evidence. One of those cases involved 25-year-old Cynthia Apacao, who was serving time for aggravated assault at Arizona's Perryville Women's Prison. Video evidence show officers hanging out inside air-conditioned command center during hot summer days instead of watching the inmates and the way they were supposed to, what they were getting paid for. The video shows an officer looking into Apacao's cell only to find her hanging from the ceiling. She used bed sheets to tie an overhead vent to hang herself, something an investigation had found that parole officers would have seen if they would have been present at the time. As the video continues, multiple officers are seen running to the cell in panic, but it was too late. This February, a similar case unfolded at an Arizona State Prison in Florence, this time involving a 45-year-old Scott Saba, who hung himself with an electrical cord. In Saba's death, it was found that officers also failed to patrol the prison properly. It's disappointing to find some of your employees who decided not to do their duties, said the DOC Director Charles Ryan. So in an unprecedented move, he fired 13 employees, including 3 supervisors. Another 8 officers were suspended or reprimanded. It is unknown whether officers could have stopped the suicides, but investigations found that officers failed to do their job, falsified records, and lied to investigators looking into the suicides. I don't believe this is a reflection on the 9,100 other employees, but the message is to these 21 employees that didn't do their job, we don't have time for that, in my own words. But when you take a look at what's happening here, and for the director to fire 13 people, just fire them, including 3 supervisors, it makes you question whether or not what happened to Sandra Bland really happened to Sandra Bland. When it's clear, they just said it, the officers were found, A, not doing their job, B, falsifying records, and 3, lying to investigators about the suicide. And we don't think that that can transcend to any that is a beautiful sunrise. I'm sorry. You don't think that that can transcend to any prison, any jail, any holding station? You don't think that anybody can sit here and corroborate a story and say, you know what, we just found it like this. All right, we just, like, period. No, I don't feel like there were enough questions as far as Sandra Bland was concerned. And For me, this is enough evidence that we should have been asking more questions. University of California settles with the family of the football player who died during a workout for $4,750,000. You guys remember when there was a bunch of them? I think we read about 6 or 7 different stories about football players that were dying. This was probably last year, probably around the same time last year. After months of negotiation and litigation, the University of California and the family of the university football player, Ted Agu, who died after a team drill in 2014, have settled a wrongful death lawsuit for $4.75 million. He was 21 when he died after an off-season conditioning workout outside the Memorial Stadium. His parents said that he should not have been doing such strenuous workouts because he carried a sickle cell trait, a condition that the university doctors and coaches knew about. The university admitted liability to the young man's death 3 months ago, and everything from there has been unfolding about details. So the devil was in the details. They finally went ahead and settled $4.75 million. Really quickly, Ecuador had a devastating 7.8 earthquake, and 272 are currently dead. And 150 prisoners are currently on the loose after fleeing jail. I don't know why I find that funny. I would have left too. I want you to think for a second, if there was an earthquake, the jail came tumbling down, you're thinking that this is Jesus letting you out. You're thinking you're finally free. Yes, I've been praying for this. And the walls came tumbling down and I walked out of my cell. That's why I thought it was funny. But my condolences to those that have lost their life and those that are currently injured. More than 2,500 along Ecuador's coast have been injured, and a devastation of losing your house. And we definitely will follow the story. This is the worst earthquake to hit the country since 1979. There's a lot of distressing photos showing rescuers dragging bodies of very young children out of collapsed buildings. And, you know, my heart aches for those families. And there is no, you can't get any satisfaction out of this. The only business that is currently booming right now are coffin sales, and that they made mention of that in the article. So my condolences, and if I find out anything as far as any funding or raising of funds here in Massachusetts, because you know we have a strong community here in Boston, so I definitely will keep you updated on what's going on with that. We currently have a call on the line, 617-282-0062. Good Rising, caller, you live.
Oh, this is Guy.
Hey, Guy.
Good morning.
Good rising. Good rising. So you guys remember that awesome guest that I told you about? This is he. So yeah, of course, baby, of course. So Guy, what I would love for you to do is for you to tell the listeners who you are, what it is you do, and what makes you so amazing.
Oh, you are too sweet in the morning. Thank you so much. So my name is Guy Anthony. I am a community mobilizer. I'm around HIV/AIDS issues. I'm the executive director of my own organization. I'm a writer. I'm a blogger. I'm an author. And I'm human. And so I always like to end with me being human, because I may do a ton of things. I take great pleasure in just being a regular person. And so that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell.
And that's beautiful. Why do you think it's so important for us to discuss or have conversations centered around a very prevalent disease in our community that we kind of ignore? Like as a community, we ignore. And even if there's somebody in our family that you know, is dealing with this, it's still something we don't talk about. Why is it so taboo to talk about this one thing?
Well, we know that in the Black community, what goes on at home stays at home. And so I was molested growing up. And so I make it my business to talk about all of those things that sort of brought me to this point point in my life, being molested, being sexually assaulted, being kicked out because I was gay, not because I was a bad student or a bad child, but simply because of my sexual preference. And so I've sort of dedicated my life and my mission and my message to destigmatizing this disease, because it could happen to anyone, and it doesn't, just happen to people that are sexual deviants according to, the Bible thumpers or other, community members. No, you can be sexually assaulted. You can be born with this disease. So what does that stigma look like for those people? And so I believe that God does not do anything for no reason. And so I believe that I got this disease to tell people about it, to let them know that you can still thrive and live and live a wonderful life post-diagnosis. But, even to this day, my mother and I, we still don't really talk about my disease, and I've been positive for over 10 years now. And this is a major part of my life, and it's still like pulling teeth to get, people to recognize me. And so I will not stop until people realize that this is a disease that is greatly affecting Black gay men, Black men, and Black women. And so we all need to be in on the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for beautifully putting that together. I have a few questions. Do you mind if I ask, how did you contract HIV?
So, it's quite interesting when you really, really look at the social determinants of health that lead to a young man contracting HIV. And I think that that's what we're not paying enough attention to. We keep throwing money, for research and biomedical research and PrEP and PEP, but we're not really, really talking about the social economic reasons as to why someone becomes vulnerable to this disease. But I say all that to say, being kicked out at an early age because of my sexuality, I'm from Detroit. Where do you go? Sexuality is still very much machismo in Detroit. So I always felt that I didn't belong there. And so I met someone online that said that they would take care of me, flew me to Philadelphia, and that is where the story began. Obviously, that didn't work out. It was an abusive situationship, verbally and physically, and I was sexually assaulted while living with someone else and having to try to escape that negative situation, and actually met someone else that would give me an e-pill and take advantage of me at 19. And so I say all that to say it's still happening today. The younger, this disease is getting younger and younger. 13-year-olds are infected now, 14-year-olds, and it's because their parents and their families are not standing behind them as gay people. And so, we become more susceptible to the world when we don't have that support that we need at home.
So you just blew my mind. First, with the fact that somebody would take advantage of you, give you an e-pill and take advantage of you. Second, that we have tweens, in a sense, being infected because of the stigma around their sexuality. So, okay. You were kicked out of, how old were you when you were kicked out of your house because of your sexuality? And how often does this happen to those who, not only just gay children or gay people, but also transgendered or confused? I don't know if I'm able to say that.
Questioning. But it happens more often than you think, and that's the issue. 4 out of 5 gay students of color report verbal harassment. 1/3 of them report physical violence at school and at home. So, that is saying something there. I was kicked out many times. I grew up in a very religious family, very religious household, single mother, who had to be both mom and dad. Her children were born into a world that did not recognize them anyway. So she had to be extra tough. And so I think that did a disservice to me, because I just felt as though I needed to hide everything, suppress everything. And so I was actually outed by a family member to my family. So that's another form of violence that people, don't know. I didn't have a coming out story. Most Black people don't have coming out stories. we were outed, or we're not afforded a coming out story because it's still so stigmatized within our communities. The churches damn us, the deaconess, they don't understand us, but the pastors are molesting us, but we're not talking about that either. So, I just think that being kicked out, multiple times, being forced to live with people, that were 40 people in the house because I had nowhere else to go. That happened multiple times. I went to college from a friend's house, not from home, because my mother just did not understand my gayness. She thought it was something that I could take a pill, and miraculously be cured, or I could pray the gay away. And too many times that's happening to us. And that's why there is an increasingly alarming number of Black gay youth committing suicide. Birth, infection rates are going up, STD rates are going up because we just don't have anyone to support us at home.
So I'd like to rewind because I think personally, opinion, not fact, I think one of the things that we failed to do as our public school system is we took away health. We took away that component to discuss what happens with girls and boys and diseases that, could or could not be contracted. And sometimes those discussions that started at school, because not all school districts are afforded that time or whatever, money, whatever they associate the lack of having health class, then trickles into the home conversation, because at home, once again, it is stigmatized. We don't have those conversations. And how do we start, Guy? How do we start as, I have questions about my child. My child's about 12, 13 years old. I have some questions. I don't know how to ask these questions. I want to be a supportive parent, but what steps should I take that your mother, not I personally, but listeners that are going through this and, may even have a question or a thought, or, maybe possibly my child doesn't like the opposite sex. How can they, or how would have liked your mother to have treated you?
And bless my mother's heart, she just didn't know, and she didn't have the language. And I think that is the number one issue, is that heterosexual parents don't have the language. And unfortunately, there's no real way to have the language to talk to your children about their sexuality. But what I always wish my mother would have done, or anyone for that matter in my family, was to just ask. You'd be surprised how much we would open up if you just acknowledge us. And, not just acknowledge our sexuality, but acknowledge me as a whole person. Because I don't acknowledge my mother as a heterosexual woman first. I acknowledge her as my mother. Mm-hmm. And so I don't understand a lot of times when, families cut themselves off from their children because they just don't support the sin. We love the sinner, but we hate the sin, and that makes no sense to me. And so I just wish that anyone, even to this day, just ask me about my life. When I go home, no one really ever asks me about my life because they don't know if they're going to offend me with the questions, or, everyone's tiptoeing around me. No, I'm a person. Everyone's talking about their love lives. I want to be included in the conversation. And I think that's what, most LGBT people are sort of fighting for, is just to be included in the conversation. You don't have to make it all about me, but just invite me to the table to have these conversations about my sexuality, about who I'm in love with, about who I'm dating. And then we will feel affirmed. And once you feel affirmed, you can go on to do great things. I'm a strong believer that when you feel good, you do good things. Be included. And so that's what I would just challenge anyone, heterosexual that may not understand, or, maybe off-put by, gay men or lesbian women or transgender females or men. Just ask them. It won't be offensive. We just want to be included. That's it.
But I have some questions that some, like, Tayla, you can't ask people that. Like, you have to have some tact a little bit. You can't just say whatever comes to mind. But these are questions that I know that don't just, I'm not the only one with these questions.
Yeah. Well, I think a part of it is, I always say this. I don't like to educate people about my blackness or my gayness. Those are things that I am. And I mean, I just don't really have time to explain, my sexuality. And one of the things I often, tell people is I asked my mother, in your heart, could you turn gay? And she said, no. And I said, so imagine how I feel when you're still asking me about a wife or, children or a girlfriend. I can't turn myself straight. And I think once you realize that, then we can really, really have a conversation. Is that this isn't a choice for me. This is who I am. And so, I mean, first of all, Tayla, Google is your best friend. So anything that you feel that may be too offensive or, you don't really know if you can ask this question, I say Google it. Or, talk to a doctor about it. I often, encourage my mother to talk to her doctors about certain things, about, HPV, about what's happening, the hormones and all those types of things, so that when she comes to me, she can have an educated answer and not just sort of be aloof. And so that's what I often tell people, just Google, ask other people, ask around before, you do offend a gay person. But I don't think we would be all that offended. We've been asked way more, and so I just think that having that open and transparent conversation, that will be the starting point for you.
Thank you so much. For those that are just now tuning in, Big City 101.3 FM, Waking Up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. Currently, we're on the line, Motivational Monday, with Guy Anthony, who is a well-respected HIV/AIDS activist, community leader, and author. He was diagnosed with HIV as a teen. Guy has dedicated his adult life to the pursuit of neutralizing global HIV/AIDS-related stigmas. He recently released Positivity with a plus sign in the middle. Positively Beautiful, Affirmations, Advocacy, and Advice on World AIDS Day in 2012. The collection of inspiring narratives, raw imagery, and affirming anecdotes has earned Guy much acclaim, including being named one of the top 100 HIV prevention leaders under 30 by POZ magazine. So shout out to him and all that he does. I want to give a shout out really quickly to our sponsors, Coleman G. Howard, Truth, Love, and Compassion, which I think is so beautiful in connection with today's conversation, because in a sense, we are talking about truth, love, and compassion, being true to who you are, loving the person for who they are, and having compassion to understand that you may not understand those differences, but just that love and that truth is enough to build a compassion. So shout out to Coleman G. Howard. All of his shirts exude love and appreciation for others as well as self. And as you guys know, we are what we eat, think, and wear on the third dimensional plane. And if you are wearing nonsense, that's exactly what the energy that you're giving off. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Faith's Natural Beauty.com. My biggest, most favorite product of hers is the natural deodorant. It doesn't have any aluminum in it. It's all natural. You're not going to get breast cancer. It works if you have a high pH and you sweat really bad. It's going to work for you. It's great for children. And for my ladies who put their deodorant underneath their breast, in between their legs, maybe somebody need them on their feet. It's in a jar. You can use it how you wish. With that being said, thank you to our sponsors. Again, Guy Anthony, thank you so much for being on air with us. If you guys have any questions, please give us a call, 617-282-0062. So I want to ask some questions that maybe people are afraid to ask. If it's too personal, that's perfectly fine. Just say pass. And if you guys have any questions and you want to remain anonymous, TAYLAANDRE, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. So my first question is, at what age did you know that you did not like girls?
I never liked girls. I remember my mother's a beautician. She actually did Kenya Moore hair, surprisingly, when Kenya Moore was in high school. So that's a fun fact. But I remember my mother having a hair show, and hair shows in Detroit were like amazing. They were like the Oscars. And she came out to like Never Gonna Get It. The initial girls walked out to Never Gonna Get It by Vogue. And I just remember like sashaying down that runway, heating it up, giving it everything I had. And at that moment, I just sort of knew that I was different. And then when I got to middle school, I remember having like strong urges for I do not have a recollection of ever liking girls. I dated girls because I was supposed to, because in 8th grade you sort of have to, but I don't ever remember liking girls for real. So it's interesting.
So you kind of went against yourself. You weren't true to yourself by dating these girls. Was your first kiss with a girl?
So I was molested, right? So I believe that my first kiss was when I was being molested. And so I often talk about life pre-molestation and post-molestation. So I really believe that everything happened during that molestation. My first intercourse, first touch, first kiss, first everything happened around 8 when the molestation began.
So a lot of people have this idea that the reason why people become gay, not born with it, but become gay, is because something bad, like you just explained, happened to them. The pre and post, did you know in your mind that you were different pre-molestation?
No, everything is post.
So as a devil's advocate, do you think maybe this experience is the reason why you chose, or not chose, because I know, forgive me for that. Do you think post molestation is the reason why you may be gay?
I do believe so. And I have a yes. And that a lot of people may not like that, but that's my experience and that's my narrative. And I really believe that. And I often, if I can be transparent for a moment.
Yes, please, baby.
I'm a writer, and I don't share all of my writings because some of them are just,
too
personal between me and God. They're my heartbeats. That's what I call them. And so I write a lot, and sometimes I wonder what my life would be like, because I do feel like I'm like, an older woman trapped in a young man's body, because I want the children, I want the husband, I want the house. And a lot of times I feel sad for myself. I weep for, a childhood lost, because I really do wonder who I may have been had this horrible thing not happened to me. And I actually talked to my mom about that a lot, and she said she wonders who I would have been too. And so I definitely, that's not to say people are not born gay, because I have, family members, or I've known, people growing up that have been gay their entire lives, literally as children. I've watched them, grow up to be gay and be super feminine as children. But I do believe that a lot of us, it does happen because, we were sexually assaulted, or we, were molested as children. And I think that it makes it easier. My therapist told me that the first sort of interaction or sexual interaction that you have is sort of something that, I guess, changes the trajectory of your life. And he believes that, because I was touched by a man first, because I had those things happen to me as a man, from a man at 8, that I am gay because of those things. And I wouldn't challenge it. I would not challenge that.
And that goes to answer the question from Anonymous, who asked if you were molested by a man or a woman. You were molested by a man. And you think that maybe if that situation had not happened, you would have a different life today.
I do. I genuinely do.
Wow. A lot of people would say that's not the way it works. Like a lot of people that are gay, and how you explain that you've seen children come up very feminine and end up being gay. Do you think there's any chance for you to have a wife? Like at any point, do you think that maybe if you mentally, emotionally overcome the trauma that has happened in your past, do you think there's any chance of you ever being somebody's husband to a woman?
I don't. I've sort of accepted, my life and the way that the way that it's been for the last couple of years. I enjoy my life this way, and I'll have children, probably be a surrogate or something like that. But I'm not interested in women at all. I mean, to be besties with, for sure, and to go shopping, I'm down. But no, not sexually at all. I do sometimes look at women's butts, if I'm honest. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. But,
Yay! love it.
I think so. It's interesting. I'm a butt man, so I can appreciate a beautiful woman. I just don't want to have sex with her.
That is amazing. We have a caller on the line. If you have any questions for Guy Anthony, if you have any questions surrounding AIDS or HIV or how to speak to a gay child or maybe a questioning child, please give us a call. If you want to remain anonymous, that's perfectly fine. I completely understand. TaylaAndre. We currently have a caller on the line, 617-282-0062. Good rising, caller, you're live. Okay, Miss G.
I need to ask him, and this is just hypothetical. What was your relationship with a man, like say like a father figure or anything? That's just hypothetical. I just, out of curiosity, I want to know.
I don't really have a father presence in my life. My father has been on drugs ever since I was born. He was one of the first people to try crack after coming home from the military, and he became addicted immediately. And so, and I mean, my grandpa was pretty much the only father figure I've ever had in my life. And he just recently passed in December. So if I'm honest, I've never had a real father figure in my life.
Okay, and also, here's the second part. I'd like to know if your attraction to men is physical or sexual. I mean, I think about that. I have gay people in my family also, and I'd like to know, is it just physical or is it sexual? Which one? Which area would that cover?
If I'm honest, it's neither. It's emotional. I have an affinity for Black men.
Me too,
because
baby.
Of the history of Black men, because of the struggle, because of the plight. And so I have an emotional affinity for them. It's not necessarily physical, I love men, but I'm not active sexually. And so, I know that it's not that. It's definitely emotional. And so, yeah, not physical or sexual in any way, emotional.
Thank you very much, and God bless.
No problem.
Thank you, Miss G. I love it. Appreciate you. If you guys have any more questions for Guy Anthony, we're currently talking around AIDS and HIV, of course, prevention. Understanding that after you've been diagnosed, your life is not over. It's the beginning of a new start. How was that transition when you found out that you were HIV positive? Walk us through those feelings and how you finally accepted your fate.
Well, you know
I don't
what?
know if that was the right word.
Definitely, we do people a disservice, I think, right now by really pushing and telling people that, this is a new life after being diagnosed. You can live and you can thrive with this disease. And I think that people are not as afraid of it anymore as they were in the 80s and the 90s, because we're sort of propagandizing this disease. And let's be clear, this is not something that I want. I mean, having to take a pill every single day, night sweats, rashes, like these aren't things that I want. And so I definitely want to be clear, because someone told me the other day that I make having HIV look easy. And I think that he thought that was supposed to flatter me, but it didn't. I wasn't flattered. I was like, well, I'm not really doing a good job, because I need to be scaring people. I need to be, evoking some fear in them, because this is not something that you want for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
So I just really wanted to say that, because I think a lot of times we push this idea that, life is amazing post-diagnosis. And let's be clear, it's not all that rosy. You just have to live and survive, but it's not something that I ever wanted. But if I sort of internalized this disease for 5 years before I told anybody. And so when people see me and they hear my story today, they're like, oh my God, you've adjusted so well. And I'm like, well, babe, I did 5 years of, damage to my body to sort of rebuild myself up. And that was, drug use in LA, just a lot of things that were not healthy. But I needed to do those things because I needed to really be born again, reborn. And so after 5 years is when I wrote the book. And that's when I came out to the world, because I knew that I just could not be silent about what happened to me, because there were so many other young people that this happened to. And so honestly, I wrote the book for myself. And if it was to help someone else, then, you know, that's a blessing. But I wrote it because I needed to write myself out of this pain.
That was beautiful, Papa. That was gorgeous. So you internalized for 5 years, baby. I can barely keep a secret for 5 minutes. No, I'm just joking. I ain't no snitch.
When there's so much stigma on your sexuality and an HIV status in your community, you keep it to yourself, because you don't want to lose your family, you don't want to lose your friends, and that's what I was fearing, that I could possibly lose my entire family because of a disease that I didn't ask for. And so that's part of the issue.
What is that?
Is that
Is that
people
others'
aren't talking
pills?
because they're afraid of what their family is going to say, what their community is going to say about them. And so that's why I had to really, really deal with it on my own. It wasn't because I wanted to, it was because I couldn't talk about it to anybody.
What pills, what medication do you take? And do you have any visions of grandeur of being Michael Johnson and no longer having the disease? Because I feel like that. I feel like, hey, if he can be cured, you know, depending on how much money I make, I can be cured too.
Magic Johnson isn't cured though. That's that I don't know where that rumor came from, but no one's cured of HIV. He is virally suppressed, so he has his HIV under control. But I mean, like I am too, and yeah, he's not cured.
So what does that mean to be? Because I feel in a sense like you have yours under control. You take a pill every day. So what does that mean to be virally suppressed?
So your HIV spreads, and so I'm on Strigo. I'm on a once a day, which is a combination of about 3
did
pills.
that. You just wrote about that.
Back in the 80s, there were maybe people were taking upwards to 25, 30 pills a day for HIV. And so, you know, through the good graces of biomedical research and HIV, trial networks, we have learned that, you know, viral suppression, it reduces the person's viral load to an undetectable level.
Okay.
Whereas you are not transmitting the disease to anyone. And so that's what people aren't really aware of. And have you ever heard of PrEP before, right?
I have never heard of PrEP before.
Okay, so PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis, and it's a pill that Gilead creates, and not creates, but produces, and you give it to HIV negative people, and I think they take it for upwards to 3 months, and that will reduce the transmission rate of someone living with HIV. And so if I'm undetectable and someone's on PrEP, I cannot my likelihood of transmitting the disease to him is non-existent.
So there's a way for you to have a sex life.
Yes. Oh God, yes. That's clear. You can definitely have. And I'm so glad you have me on your show, Tayla, because this is so important, because a lot of heterosexual people don't know about these things because they don't necessarily work in the field and they aren't, firsthand advocates to this disease. But I can have unprotected sex and not transmit the disease to someone.
So can I tell you, can I be 100% transparent? So I have a child like mine sometimes, and I really thought that if I ever met a partner that had AIDS and I really, really loved them, that I would have to get AIDS from them or contract AIDS or HIV from them in order for us to have. I did not know that one partner can be HIV positive and the other partner can be completely free of the disease. This is not information that people actually discuss. This isn't well known.
And so that would be called a serodiscordant relationship, where one person's serostatus, sero means blood, when one person's serostatus is negative and the other's is positive, and if we both have the same status, we are seroconcordant. So if I'm positive and you're positive, we're seroconcordant. And if I'm negative and you're negative, we're seroconcordant. And so I usually date HIV negative men. And everyone's like, well, you know, what's the risk? There is no risk. And so he obviously would, you know, test himself regularly. But if he's on PrEP and you know, and I'm virally suppressed, we are just like any normal and regular couple having sex and being okay with that. But these are the things that heterosexual couples talk about, and hell, they're barely talking about it in the gay community. So I'm so proud of you for having this conversation this early in the morning. So
baby, we have all types of conversations this early in the rising, and it's because these are things that we need to know. These are things that we need to be educated on, and we're not educated about AIDS and HIV and the other diseases in the household. We're not educated them in our schools anymore. Like, you have to be a part of a certain program for you to have this type of knowledge. And I want to give a huge shout out to Take the Test Boston, where they administer tests all year round, but they have a week long going to T-stops, our train stations, our bus stations, and giving out those rapid tests, those 20-minute tests, so people can know their status. # know your status. And I think it's very important that, you know, I can't tell you how many times people are like, I'm scared. Like, I know I don't have it, but I'm still scared. People won't get blood work. People won't go to the doctors. People won't go to the clinic. I can only imagine how many people are walking around with some type of dormant disease that's in them, and they just don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge issue. And it's not even, I think people do want to know their status. I think that they just don't know where to go. And so I think definitely equipping people with the resources that they need, I think that that's the first step. Because ultimately, if you go into different bus stops and you're giving me a test, what does that follow-up look like for me? You know, where do I go if I am positive? Where, you know, who's going to really take care of me? You know, will they keep my information a secret? I think that is the number one issue, is that people don't want anybody else to find out. They don't mind knowing, but they don't want anybody else to find out. So they hide in secret.
Good rising.
You know, and that's not the way to do it. You definitely have to be connected to someone, and you have to have people that look like you that are helping you. And that is another issue, is that, you know, once you become positive, you know, and they're put into communities of people that don't look like them, but teaching them about their lives, you know, there's a disconnect. So, you know, what does that look like for someone?
That looks like Boston public schools, baby. That look like half the schools across America. You trying to teach me about something and you don't look like me? That looks like schools across America.
Do you see that that's the disconnect?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To high school, you know, middle school, like elementary school, like who's teaching me? What are they teaching me? How am I learning? That's the issue. And so I think once we really, you know, attack that, it has
we
really
think that each problem is individual by itself.
You know,
it is
what I'm learning
these are collective issues
before I get out into the world, at home and at school. So I don't know.
You know, I said that too, like in my head, like I don't know.
It's just I'm reading Ta-Nehisi Coates right now, Between the World and Me, and I'm just, you know, I'm like mind blown, and so I'm thinking about things, and you know, the systemic racism, all of those types of things, institutionalized slavery, like all of those things. You know, until we really unpack those things, I think worrying about my sexuality or my HIV status makes it secondary. We have things out first.
Absolutely, but I don't ever want you to feel like, listen, all these problems and issues in the world, trust and believe they're still going to be here. But there is somebody that needs you more than you could ever imagine to help them come out, to help them. And I feel like I personally don't know what it feels like, but I feel like, you know, sometimes coming out could be actually coming out to yourself and dealing with the realization of the truth. Listen, I may not have HIV, but I'm dealing with the realization that I'm selfish. I'm dealing with other types of realizations of self. And, you know, it's difficult. And people need you. They need your voice. They need to know that, you know, I'm okay. I'm okay, and I can't imagine. We read stories, we've read statistics about how many people are kicked out of their houses, how many people become homeless, how many people commit suicide. I think it was about a year ago. We was the last time we visited this type of conversation, but you are the first guest to ever add the component with HIV/AIDS as well. So we do have another question on the line. If you have any questions for Guy Anthony surrounding around AIDS or HIV, or coming out, or how to speak to your children who may be gay or may even have HIV or AIDS, and these are taboo topics in our community. And if you have any questions, then now is the time, baby. Don't be scared. You could be anonymous, 617-282-0062, or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TaylaAndre. Good Rising, Callie Alive.
Good Rising. It's amazing how this came in this morning, because about 3 days ago, my son, he's 13, he just kind of told me that he's chosen to like boys. I'm Caribbean and Hispanic, so this is a little tough on me, but I love my son with everything. So my question, because I've been listening, he said that, he thinks things might have been different if, nothing would have happened with him.
I love my show.
I believe, me and my kid's mother separated, and then there was a time where he wasn't seeing eye to eye, so I didn't get to spend as much time with my son as I used to when he was like, 9 and 10. But before that, he used to always be into girls. Oh, I got girlfriend. I'm like, but you're too young for girlfriend. But then there was a time where there was some, he had a friend that both his parents were males. And then I ended up finding out that he used to go over there. So I strongly feel like something happened to my son that nobody wants to tell me. And now he seems to be confused. Just like 3 days ago, he told me how he's chosen to like boys. So my question is, do you feel that when you were young and you were molested, if the help that we have now, you would have help then, if somebody would have, helped you, things would have turned out different still, or do you feel that you still would have just say, okay, I think I'm just going to choose to find boys attractive, because he feels, I've kind of related your story with my son, even though I don't know he got molested, because he said he didn't, but something deep inside of me tells me that something did happen. And that's why he's all of a sudden now changing, because he's just gradually, as he's getting older, getting more into saying that he likes boys. And he had issues in school with like bumping into boys, and having issues where now I transfer him from one school to another, and now he's got to get transferred to another school because he's having issues with like touching now, and I just wanted some advice from you to find out, how can I go about really talking to my son, where I can find out whether he's really, really not got molested, or whether something did happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if
it's too much. I don't know if my life would have been different. Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We're still here.
Good. I really don't know if my life would have been different had I gotten, the help that I needed earlier. But I do believe I wouldn't have put myself in as many risky situations had my mother just taken me to a therapist to talk about what was going on with me. She recognized that I was depressed as a child, and they did nothing. And so the first step, I love that you said, I love my son regardless. I think we all just want our fathers or father figure to say, I love my son regardless. Or my mother to say, you know what, I love my son regardless. I know that she does, but obviously saying it is more effective than just knowing it. But I would honestly take him to see a therapist, because he may not tell you stuff. Although you may be the cool dad and he loves you, or, he's open with you, he's still not going to tell you, the inner workings of his sexuality, because you're still dad and you're still a heterosexual man. So I would honestly just take him to a therapist to let him talk about what's going on, because at 13, I know he's, sexually confused about some things. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't even really know what his sexuality is at 13. So I just would like for you to take him to talk to someone to help him and talk to him about these things. I don't know if he, will ever be straight, but I think that, allowing him to talk about it would greatly, help him. in the long run.
Papi, do you have any other questions for Guy?
I kind of lost him. I didn't hear the last thing he said.
So that's my fault. I do apologize. But you can pull this conversation up on Mixcloud. And basically, he said that he loves the fact that you said, I love my son regardless. And that's the number one thing, to make sure that he has that support at home. He said, take him to a therapist. So that way, because, you know, as his dad, he may not tell you everything. He may not tell his mom everything. But if you want, you know, help and guidance and allowing him to freely express himself, take him to a safe place that will allow him to express himself without that judgment and without, you know, scaring him a little bit, because, you know, we're fearful of our parents. What do our parents think? How are they going to feel about me after I tell them this thing? But if you take him to a therapist, somebody who can help him talk through his problems and find the words to then express to you.
The therapist. But, like, I don't know, like, the therapist's not allowed to tell you, because that's, like, confidentiality, even if they're children, right?
Mm-hmm. So it's not, the therapist is not necessarily for you. The therapist is for him to be able to work through what he's dealing with, mentally, emotionally, you know, physically, sexual, whatever's built up inside of him. He is able and capable to speak to somebody to help him deal with the emotions that he's going through and help him find the words to then express it to you, so he can come to you freely without the therapist being a snitch. So you're right. There are confidentiality issues that you're not going to know everything, but as long as you give him a space to feel that he can say whatever he wants to say, that's really what's important. It's not you knowing everything, but you knowing that your son is in a safe place and can express himself and then can relay what he's feeling to you by somebody guiding him through those motions.
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I just gotta be patient. I'm that he was able to tell me that he got the confidence to tell me, because I'm very open with my son, and I kind of suspected something because he's acting different, so I just been asking him. So he finally just told me the other day, you know, listen, Daddy, I just chose to, you know, like boys. I don't really find girls attractive anymore. And, you know, it's kind of tough, but like I said earlier, that's my son, so I just gotta find a way to stay supportive and not be too aggressive on, you know, this is his decision right now. But I definitely appreciate this conversation. I'm very thankful, because I needed something like this. It's been in my head this whole weekend. So, all right, so just gotta be patient, and with due time, hopefully I get more information regarding what made him make this decision. But I just really want to thank you, Tayla, for, as always, every morning. Got great topics, and blessed day, and
I want to say thank you to you, because you're dealing with this. This is a family issue. This is a family matter. For you to call to this show and be 100% transparent, I thank you for your honesty. And I thank you for allowing us to be a part of something so huge for you and for your son. And I would like for Guy, can we extend a conversation between you and his son?
Yes, for sure. That would be awesome. If he ever wants to stop, that would really be good.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful.
please.
So, Papi, what I would like for you to do is at 7:01, when we get off air, call me back. I'm going to take your number, and then I'll go ahead and give it to Guy, and you guys can work that out.
That would be awesome. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. Love and appreciate you. Hope you have an awesome day. Guy, I want to thank you as well for calling in today, because when we set up today's date, we didn't know this was going to happen. You know, and there are no accidents in life. So there's somebody else that is going through this right now. Somebody else's child is going through this. Somebody else needs advice. I don't know what to do with my child. I really appreciate this conversation. I'm appreciating the transparency, and I feel the love. I feel Coleman G. Howard. I'm feeling the love today. We have another call on the line, 617-282-0062. Somebody is saying, shout out to the dad for at least being open enough to be involved in his son's life. And yes. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Hi,
I wanted to remain anonymous, if that's okay.
Absolutely, baby.
But I had a question for Guy. First of all, I want to say that I really appreciate that you have the courage to come on the radio and share your story, because not a lot of people do that. And,
Shut your radio off for me, baby. We have an echo in the background.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I do appreciate that, which leads to my question. What brought to my question is that I know somebody personally that I've dated, and I have suspicions that he could be like on a down low. However, like, you know, he will never tell me whether or not that's true. And my question is, like, how would I know for the future? Because, you know, I have children. So how would I know for the future if somebody is having issues with coming out? Because I recall you saying that someone in your family outed you and stuff. I just wish that the person that I'm suspecting to be on the down low could have just had this conversation with me if that was really the case. But, you know, a lot of people are really scared with this kind of society who are really against gays and things like that. I mean, it's really difficult thing to talk about with somebody. But how would I know the signs of whether or not the person is like either bisexual or really like men, but, you know, is trying to hide something, or like, how would I know?
Great question, baby. Thank you. Go ahead, Guy. I'm sorry.
Really, today, you will probably never really know. I've dated guys with whole families that I didn't know about until later. And you know, I make it my business that I definitely don't date anybody that is in some sort of heterosexual relationship. I don't really have time for those issues. But I think if asking him would be the most ideal way, I guess. You know, a lot of times we, you know, are fearful that we may offend them. But honestly, baby, if you suspect it, it's probably true. I mean, I often tell people to go with their guts. You go with your intuition. If you feel something so strongly, you know, then it's probably already true. You know, I guess you just want the confirmation from him to say it to you. But I think
you most likely ain't gonna get that
confirmation that you need.
Wow. Do you know, but how many men are really out here that are interested in other men and quote unquote on the down low? You said whole families, baby. Like, he got a wife and kids and still, you know, sneaking off with the freak off. Like, that's...
It's very real. And that's why I encourage, you know, women to protect themselves. I mean, because you never really know. I mean, there have been, you know, men that were married and, you know, having affairs with other men. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, honestly, in today's, like, you will never really know, honestly. It's a very difficult time, but I like to challenge the reason as to why they feel like they need to be down low. That's the bigger issue. And so I think once we really unpack the alleged down low culture and why they are down low, I think that's when we'll really begin to have real conversations.
Wow. All right. We have another caller on the line. Thank you, caller, for your question. 617-282-0062. We have time for a couple more questions. If you wish to remain anonymous, you want to hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TaylaAndre, 617-282-0062. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Hello?
Hi, baby. It's you.
Hey, good morning, Tayla.
Good rising, baby.
And good morning to you again. I got a question. My daughter's 11. She says she likes this little girl and her hair is pretty. She says remarks like that about little girls. Should I be worried?
No. I just think that maybe she thinks the girl's pretty and likes her hair. I think that a lot of times, because we've become so overly sensitive to LGBT and gay issues right now that we're sort of afraid, if my little boy is playing with a Barbie doll, remember, sexuality is fluid. So she just could genuinely just like the little girl's hair. I don't think you should be worried. Not now.
So let me piggyback off Mama's question. what if this continues? What if she starts liking other little girl? Ooh, her dress was nice. I like the way it hit her leg. Or, you know, I smelled her and she smells good. Like, what if this persists? She's 11 years old. What if she's 13, 14? How do we begin to have those conversations with our sons and daughters? And when, you know, first and foremost, you don't, like you said, he's 8, 10 years old, 11 years old. He doesn't know his sexuality. So when you're that age and you're not even understanding puberty, you're not understanding your sexuality, and you have all of these questions inside of you, how does she as a parent begin to have those conversations to let the child know it's okay if you feel this way? Just help me understand what it is you're feeling so we can work through this together.
Well, I think that that's the way that you frame the conversation, Tayla, just like that. I mean, because I believe my mother always knew, but she didn't know. Like, I never got this sex ed conversation because my mother's never had, you know, that type of sex with men. And, you know, my stepfather, he's never had gay sex. So nobody knows how to talk to me about sex. And so I just think that, you know, if you don't really have the language, include someone else in the conversation that may have the language, a doctor or, you know, a nurse or, you know, someone that is proficient in sexual health with young adults. But I wouldn't want to start asking her those questions and she not even be thinking that yet, you know? And now she's like, well, oh shit, is that bad? Now I can't touch the girl's hair. Like, you know, oh, is there something wrong with that? And then that's when it becomes suppressed. And that's when they don't really fully explore when they get older, because, you know, mom at 11 said, oh, why do you like touching that girl's hair? So now to her, that's an issue.
Thank you so much. Mama, did that answer the question for you?
Thank you, Tayla. It answered everything.
Thank you.
Anytime, baby, anytime. I'm loving the fact that we're able to have these conversations. I love the fact that we're able to be free enough to at least begin to talk about these things. And I want to continue these conversations. We're coming to the top of the hour. Do you mind coming back to talk more about not just being gay, but maybe just living with AIDS, living with HIV? And really quickly, for those who don't know, what is the difference between having AIDS and HIV?
So that's a whole conversation. We need like a whole conversation about what that looks like. So because it varies now. So if I have a T-cell, yeah, we need to have a very like comprehensive. AIDS is an advanced stage of HIV. And so I think people use the terms interchangeably, and it's not really interchangeably. Like, I have HIV and I've had it ever since I was diagnosed, because my T-cell count, well, back when I was diagnosed, if your T-cell count was below or at 400, then you were still considered as to having HIV. If it was, if it was above that, you had HIV. If it was below that, they would sort of consider it AIDS at like around 200 in terms of your T-cell count. But now that fluctuates, because I had a client that came to me with a viral load of 1.2 million and a T-cell count of like 2. And she was diagnosed with AIDS, but now she's undetectable with an incredible undetectable viral load and T-cell count of 400. So technically, she still has AIDS, but it's not really classified as. It's just a really complex conversation.
Well, I would love to have this conversation with you, because I was completely under the understanding that you first are diagnosed with HIV, and then if you don't get a hold of it or if you don't get treatment, it blossoms or blooms into AIDS. So I am gravely misinformed. Like, I am so misinformed, because I really thought it was you have HIV, and if you don't take care of it, it turns into AIDS.
It does, but not everyone that has HIV will
AIDS.
Advance to the AIDS stage, to AIDS.
But somebody can have AIDS without having HIV?
No, so AIDS is the advanced form stage of HIV, like you said, like, an opportunistic infection, or you're not taking your meds regularly, or, you're really HIV. And so that's the misconception that everyone sort of has AIDS. And then I hate when people say, oh, he has full-blown AIDS. There's no full-blown AIDS. It's all HIV. And so I think that, like, there's so many myths around this disease that we really have to start unpacking everything. But let's be clear, it's difficult to really unpack these things because in 32 states, you can be jailed or imprisoned for not disclosing your status to a partner. So there's stigma surrounding the disease because in a lot of places you can go to jail for not disclosing.
And we don't have enough time for me to ask the questions I have from that one. So we can potentially, when is AIDS Day? When is HIV/AIDS Awareness Day?
It's December 1st.
Okay, I don't want to wait that long for us to talk about it. So
No. There's so many things. Yes, whenever you want to chat up, we will definitely, anytime you want me to come on and talk about it, we can definitely do that. Because I do believe that it deserves like full attention because there's so many misconceptions about this disease. And the only way to do that is to just dispel the myths. So we can do that. We can do like a Mythbusters kind of show where we just dispel all the myths surrounding this disease.
I like that. Good idea. High five. So we definitely will. For those that are just now tuning in or caught the last ending of the show, we are currently on the line with Guy Anthony, a well-respected HIV/AIDS activist, community leader, and author. Today's show was absolutely amazing. I want to thank the father who called. It was transparent about the situation that's going on in his household. Guy is 100% correct. In our community, what happens at home stays at home. You better not talk about it to nobody. We are so closed off when it comes to that. And these are the things that, like Guy said, we need to start unpacking. So Guy, I want to say thank you for the struggle that you've went through 5 years internalizing it. And I feel like you did have a coming out, baby. When you wrote that book, that was your coming out. Even though somebody ousted you and your family, I am proud and I'm happy that you were able to come out when you were ready to in the form of the book. I would love the book if you could send it to me. Maybe we could read some stories on air. But I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you so much. I'll get that book out to you tomorrow. And thank you for having this conversation.
Absolutely. Please give them all your information. How can they find you? How can they reach you? How can I read your book? Where can I find your book?
Well, my book's on Amazon. You can go to Amazon.com and search Guy Anthony, or you can go to my website, IamGuyAnthony.com. I can't add any more friends on Facebook, but I have a fan page, Guy Anthony. I am Guy Anthony on Facebook. I am Guy Anthony on Twitter and Instagram. And then my organization, Black Gifted and Whole, you can find them online at blackgiftedwhole.org. So yeah, I'm
everywhere, baby, everywhere. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. If you can stay on the line, Papi's going to call us right back. I'm going to get his information and I'll give that to you while right now. Papi, give me about 2 minutes before you call. So I loved today's show. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, but first and foremost, I want to thank Nikki Curry for allowing this conversation to happen. Nikki Curry was the facilitator of today's show, and I want to thank you. I love you, and I definitely appreciate allowing us to have this conversation. Shout out to Zaz. Zaz is located in Hyde Park. Great food, great service. It's not fast food, it's fresh food fast. I think I said that right. It's posted on their chalkboard. The food was absolutely amazing. I had a jerk salmon with mango chutney. Oh my gosh, when I tell you, and then it was a passion fruit iced tea. I hate iced tea. That thing was so good. I smashed it. Another shout out to our sponsors, Coleman G. Howard, Truth, Love, Compassion, who is also one of our guests this week. I can't wait to have that conversation about being enveloped in love. And shout out to Faith Naturals Beauty. She said that their orders went crazy on Friday for the Pum Pum Wash. Listen, girls, it's about to be summertime. I don't want to smell you in the club. Even though I'm not in the club, I still don't want to smell you anyways. The Pum Pum Wash can help you get your pH balance back in order so you can smell good, taste good, drop down and get your eagle on without smelling at the club. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have an amazing day today. Big City 101.3 FM. Waking up with Tayla Andre.
You know what it is? It's DJ Sus One, the feature presentation. Listen, make sure you wake up with Tayla Andre Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. on Big City 101.3 FM. Wake up with the Radio Rebel. Politics, news, conspiracies. Wake up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. That's the type of stuff I'm into, all right? Make sure you tune in. Let's go. Stand to the left, to the left. Stand to the right, take the right. Little mama, she keep looking at me.
I'm going to shut all this off so we can have a private conversation. Thank you. I love you guys. Papi?
Yes,
Hi, how are you?
very well. I appreciate you for real.